All right, welcome to our Fireside Chat, the rise of decentralized finance and advancing financial innovation. Please, Shelly, take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the conference. I'm a lawyer with Hassans in Tel Aviv. We are a Gibraltar firm and a proud sponsor of FinTech-Aviv. We are very active with our Israeli clients who need to be outside of Israel, especially anything to do with DLT, crypto, payments, or money transfers, banking. We are also a gateway in the post-Brexit world to the UK. We're a British firm, British-trained lawyers in the United Kingdom. Today, we are very fortunate to have Anna Stone, the head of strategy at Good Dollar, which is sponsored by Etoro. Anna is American educated from Dartmouth and the Fletcher School at Tufts. She's one of the bright lights in the Israeli crypto scene and all around the world. Anna, how did you get into crypto?
Hi, Shelly. Thanks to FinTech-Aviv for having me here to join you guys for this great global event. So my story in crypto actually starts with just a general interest in economics, which is what I studied. Specifically, I started my career thinking about money and why some of us have it and some of us don't have any of it. And this is back in 2010 and 2012, working for the Clinton Foundation and Save the Children, actually on impact initiatives that were focused off of inequality. Long story short, I ended up moving to making Aliyah, coming to Tel Aviv, and really built my career in B2B tech. Or sometime around 2017, really had to be living under a rock to be able to avoid Bitcoin and Ethereum if you were working in the technology industry. And so somewhere around 2017, 2018, I began, I would say, my crypto learning journey, starting to understand a bit more about the technology. Of course, this was at the height of the ICO boom, and there was a lot of selling out there about how crypto was going to be the enabling technology for cross-border payments and financial inclusion and transparency, and was going to help us build a whole entirely brand new financial system. It seems like this is actually more of an evolution than a full-on revolution that we've arrived in, but that's how I arrived at crypto. I fell in love with the narrative, I fell in love with the story, and I, as someone who graduated in 2008, I wasn't in love with the banks. I believe that there was room for innovation, that there was space for a freer, fairer, more inclusive system. And I joined the team at Bancor. Bancor Protocol is one of the most established and well-known original protocols that's operating on Ethereum. And that was my journey. I've been in the space now around 4 years, and it's been amazing to see how it's grown.
So after Bancor, which is an Israeli company, I should point out to the audience, were you a freelance, or did you work for another company in crypto after that?
So I moved from when I left Bancor. It's actually interesting. Bancor was one of the first companies that was actually working in this smart contract space, which we now refer to as this field of decentralized finance, right? In 2017, 2018, those market categories didn't exist, if you will. It was just a bunch of geeks poking around on the internet, trying not to get their wallets hacked and from one another, right? And trying to build some cool stuff that would enable people to, get some use out of these technologies. And what we saw was that there was a ton of technological innovation, but less reaching the market. And so now I actually, with the Good Dollar team, which is out of Etoro, which is focused off of how do we actually expand these technologies to not just the thousands of developers that are out there working on Ethereum, but actually to millions, if not billions of consumers.
Okay, so that's how you grabbed onto the whole crypto story. Since we at FinTech-Aviv, we're kind of like a lifestyle organization. We're not just all a bunch of finance nerds. Tell me for a minute, let's just stop for a second. Tell me, how has crypto affected your life?
So I'd say that there's the macro context, which is really about falling in love with the the narrative and the potential of crypto, right? There was an early Bitcoin saying, come for the Lamborghini, for the revolution. And why I think that resonates with so many people is that certainly as a millennial, and I think of people that are even younger than me, like I said, I don't love corporations. Don't love institutions. I've been witnessing policy and who it's rewarded, and certainly with an economics background, you begin to learn a bit more about where money comes from, who controls it, who actually has visibility into where it goes, and who gets the discounts on money. And as an individual and as a consumer, I fell in love with the potential of crypto to solve that problem. So on a macro level, there's that. On a micro level, my story it's much more personal, much more to home. I'm an expat. I've been moving money between Israel and the United States for many, many years now. And to tell you the truth, I never really faced I'm banked, so whether I was paying a 1% conversion fee or a 2% conversion fee, it never really concerned me until there was a glitch and I was unable to move money into Israel because of the Hagim, because of the holiday season. And so it was like 2 full weeks where my money wasn't going to arrive. Long story short, I ended up needing the money, and I realized then I had the light bulb moment for crypto. I paid a cleaner in Ethereum. I paid my boxing trainer in Ethereum. I paid my boyfriend back for the rent. All these different things, right? And so that was my own aha moment. And since then, I've been a major advocate for getting each of friends, my parents, my family members in the game as well.
Okay, great. So we're going to talk today about decentralized finance. Before we start, can you give us a short definition of what centralized finance is? Because the big innovation here to go decentralized will not really be meaningful if we don't understand the centralized system that we're improving upon.
So I would assume that for most of us, centralized finance is just what we think of as our finance, right? Whether it's happening through a physical bank or through a digital service that's provided via our mobile banking app. So for example, a Chase Bank account, a Bank Leumi account, a trading account, even Etoro. This is a centralized trading platform. And so essentially it's normally companies that are service providers that are regulated according to the jurisdiction within which they operate. And you as a customer place your funds and your trust in the service provider to provide those services to you, whether it's banking, loans, insurance, etc.
So what is decentralized finance, DeFi? What is it?
And so decentralized finance and DeFi is actually thinking about how we take all of those traditional services and actually decentralize them. So it's not just those services aren't offered through one company, but are rather offered through autonomous computer software. Okay. So for example, instead of depositing my money into a bank account, what I actually will do is deposit my money, my digital assets, into a computer code that's called a smart contract. And that computer code is designed to function in a similar way as a bank account. That is, stay stable and allow me to earn yield, right? So the idea behind decentralized finance actually, how can we take these different services that we're used to receiving as consumers and shifting the model within which they are provided so that you no longer have to go through a bank to say, save your money or take out a loan of credit, but rather you as an individual can interact with software code that's designed to serve that exact same purpose.
So what's an example of some of the initial successes of DeFi?
So I would say if we look back at this past year, first of all, we see that the market category has actually established itself, right? So like I mentioned, what was from 2017 through 2019, really some geeks experimenting on the internet, trading Ethereum. has really evolved into a full-blown industry with over $60 billion worth of capital that's been attracted to it over the past year. What is that money being used for, right? What are some of the use cases? First and foremost, trading. There's been a fair amount of innovation in decentralized finance that allows for people to trade with a non-order book method. That is where you're not actually matching a buy and sell case, but we also start to see all different sorts of traditional financial services appearing in their DeFi rendition, right? I'd say savings, loans, insurance, synthetic and derivative assets are some of the leading cases. I think for most people, savings and loans and the potential to earn yield is probably the most enticing use case. Why? Because we know that there are extremely low interest rates right now at banks. So if I wanted to deposit my funds in any bank, I might expect to earn maybe a 1% or less on those funds. When we look in the DeFi equivalents, we actually start to see rates of return are closer to 3 to 8%, right? So I think this has actually been one of the best use cases for people in crypto. The Ethereum that you have, converting it into a stable coin, locking a stable coin into a yield protocol, and then earning, say, an 8% yield off of that asset versus keeping that money in a traditional bank account.
And do you see decentralized finance as accelerating in the coming near term, long term?
So decentralized finance is certainly accelerating. The question is rate of adoption and whether this happens in a slow or a faster model. I actually think that what we're witnessing right now is the slow evolution, if you will, believe it or not. Even though there's been such a massive explosion in the amount of capital in the space, I actually think that we're witnessing kind of the slower, more natural progression. What would the faster adoption look like? I actually think the faster adoption would look like if there's more flashpoints that actually reveal the weaknesses in the centralized financial system. So I think we all remember those images of people lining up for the Greek ATMs and being unable to get their money out. We see the same thing happening when we look at financial crises in Lebanon, other destabilized economies, etc. These are the types of flashpoints that actually cause people to have that aha moment where you realize that just because your money's in a bank, it's not sitting in that bank. You're not actually always going to be able to collect on the solvency of it, right? And so I think if over the next few years where there are more critical flashpoints that really accelerate this adoption, we're going to start to see more people, and when I say more people, I mean more people who currently aren't attracted to an 8% yield necessarily, but certainly will feel the pain point and the fear of not being able to, say, control the money that they have or they thought they had saved or that works in the bank as they thought it was intended to.
Okay, so that's kind of from the public and the consumer side of things. On the institutional and financial service provider side, what are the advantages that DeFi offers them? What's the potential for the industry?
Terrific question. I think that there's primarily, I'll break it down to three things. One is just transparency, which is that we're starting to see now, let's say JP Morgan has made major investments in a blockchain infrastructure. Visa has now starting to explore doing settlements on Ethereum. There's reasons for this. It's because of the transparency, and it's also because of the efficiency in the system, which is that it will enable them to cut out parts of their existing value chain, therefore being more profitable for them, right? Secondarily, I think one of the things that we'll start to see amongst corporations is that tokenization will enable companies to essentially use assets in new ways that they currently cannot today. So for example, I'm sure many of you in this conference have heard the term NFT, non-fungible tokens, what does this do? This is actually a digital proof of unique ownership. So traditionally, if NFTs or unique ownership actually expand the number of assets that can be used for collateral, whether that's taking loans, lines of credit, etc. I think businesses will start to use these technologies in really interesting new ways to fund their own capitalization.
Okay, so give me a feel for in the industry. Are the big DeFi cheerleaders, are they a small minority, or does the industry kind of see this as an inevitable trend? Or are there resistance from the establishment? Are there people who just are detractors? What do the bleachers look like in this business?
So I would say there's more and more people sitting in the fan section every day, and I'll back up a little bit in that statement, which is that now 5 years into this emerging industry, we're actually starting to see some proven use cases, if you will. So billions of dollars of money moving through these contracts. A lot of top tier VC investors are buying those companies, right? So Andreessen Horowitz, for example, has an entire crypto division that they've focused primarily on investing in decentralized finance projects. Over the past few years, we've also started to financial and investment influencers become big champions of DeFi and its commercial potential. Mark Cuban is one that comes to mind because he's particularly well adopted in the mainstream and has been a very bullish and big advocate of DeFi. I think certainly one of the most interesting things to monitor, though, is seeing how the crowd receives DeFi, right? And how people, and I say people, I mean people on the internet that are vocal in these different digital communities, how they see decentralized finance as really the next evolution in individual financial activism. And here I can't help but bring up GameStop or even a phenomenon such as Dogecoin, which have really been embraced by many different internet communities and investing communities as activist movements against institutional change. And I think as DeFi services and the narrative of decentralized finance emerges, I think we're going to see these trends kind of merge together into one big tidal wave.
And will the incumbents resist out of inertia, or will they resist because their lunch is being eaten?
I think at the end of the day, there's plenty of money to go around, right? So I think, and companies, I'm not worried about companies. I think companies are going to find a way. I think particularly innovative financial companies are looking at this space seriously and with intent. The investing panel before, I'm sure they have their own philosophy about how this is going to affect fintechs. In general, I believe that we're going to see hybrid models where current financial institutions that we know and are aware of begin to embrace some of these fundamental DeFi principles. And as a consumer, I won't know whether I'm depositing my money into a DeFi protocol or not, because it will all be happening through one beautiful interface on my phone.
Okay, so we're not going to see Jamie Dimon walking around with a cup saying, I was doing fantastic until DeFi came along.
Jamie Dimon has been known to change his mind, as you see, has changed his mind on Bitcoin. And I have a feeling that, like many other smart people who aren't afraid to change their mind and change their opinion and their way of thinking, we're going to see a lot of smart people who were not believers get into that bleachers side of the fans.
Okay. Tal, do we have a minute?
We're actually kind of pushed, but if you have something that you have to conclude, so let's do it. Yeah.
And anything you want to tell us about Good Dollar before we go?
Sure. So I would just say Good Dollar is the nonprofit arm of Etoro. And what we're really focused on is looking into the long game future and how we actually bring digital currency to the billions of unbanked and underbanked people all across the world. And so this wealth boom, which is coming fast and furious, benefits more people, and actually deals with income inequality, which I believe to be the most pressing issue of our time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna. Thank you very much, Shelly. It was actually a really inspirational, and it was a fireside chat. This is the actual example of a fireside chat. So thank you very much. It was lovely to hear and really insightful. We had some questions. I encourage you all to reach out to Shelly and Anna, and we have some amazing and great job here from the audience. So great. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. And feel free to reach out with questions.